Hello, my name is Max Drake. Today I'd like to talk to you about OpenMAINT. OpenMAINT is an open source facilities management program built on open source software. I've written quite extensively about it on my blog site, about how to set it up and how to do some of the configurations within the process. You'll see there are categories on OpenMAINT setup and OpenMAINT configuration and OpenMAINT. So if I just hit on one of those, that'll actually just show the category that you'll be interested in. I'm running two processes at the moment. This one is on a local host, so it's actually running on my computer, so this is where I do some testing on it. And then I actually have one on an Amazon web service free server, which I have for a demonstration site. So just jumping straight into the program first of all, First of all, it has space and asset inventory. So it starts off a complex, as in if you've got multi buildings on a specific site, you've got a complex level, you've got a building level. And as you can see, even on mine, I've got 12 megabytes RAM. It's still a little bit slow. Or is it gig? I'm not too sure. You've got a building level, you've then got a floor level. I've got an upper floor and lower floor on this particular one. You've then got a room level, which shows you specific rooms, and you have a unit level, which is between floor and rooms, like if you actually have an apartment block or say a hotel, which actually has different units along the things. You can divide them that way, whether you use them or not. You've got your assets in there, and you've got technical objects that you can put in, like electrical, HVAC, conveyors, lifts, plumbing, security, IT. This was actually built off an IT solution called CMD Build, and then they reconfigured it to open maintenance. So it's based on the idea of, I suppose, movable objects plus also network objects as well. And you've got furniture, you've got structural elements, you've got external fabric, you've got plants, you've got outside elements, and you've got greenery, infrastructure, reports and dashboards, which will give you a space inventory if you've written one out. A lot of these are not preset. There aren't preset ones there. You basically actually have to develop these ones yourself, but it does, because it's open source, you can actually write them as you want. That's the asset side of it. So we actually have the space and asset. We then have a facilities maintenance. Now this part here is actually broken on this one, so that's why I've done it. You see these ones don't show little cogs, so this is why I'm just going to jump over to this one here. Whereas if I go into facility maintenance, you'll see if I have the maintenance progress, they have little cogs. So what this actually does is that you can log on and put in a maintenance request, and then it creates, goes through to whoever's managing this, which would be a help desk with your facility maintenance people. They would create a work order that would go through a process of who would deal with it, and inside here you have teams and service activities and service categories to do with certain elements of those. So you'd have a plumbing team, you'd have a carpentry team, etc., etc. And there's a reports and dashboard on those, just saying the maintenance request summaries, all of those sorts of things. It has logistics management module, which is merely warehouse and moving furniture. Again, this is based on an IT, and they just sort of try to move it over into the building assets, so that the warehouse movement is really more for computers rather than necessarily for furniture and equipment. There is a financial aspect to it, and there's an energy and environment aspect to it. And there's a whole lot of little dashboards and reports that you can actually do on those. Now I just want to zip back, and you have to set up a lot of those. So it's in a sort of tabula rasa state, and you actually have to develop a lot of those things. If we actually go to room, and I'm just going to jump back to my other system here. If we actually go to a room and let's just go to the building, one of the things that you've actually got is it's based on this notion of cards. Now on this card you create a new card which might be a building, a room, a unit or whatever. You actually have general data that you can actually have on these maintenance data. You can reconfigure a lot of these ones here. So there's maintenance data on those, and there's details about those, and if there's certificates, consumptions, floor, other things, those are to do with the environmental ones, which is really to do with energy and environment, meter readings, etc., etc. There's relations. Now, relations are very important. Once you actually set up relations, it's very hard to break them and do them. So there's a relation of a room with a floor, a relation of a floor with a building. There's a relation of a building with a site or a complex, and once you've actually created these ones, it's very hard to unbreak them. So if you try and transfer your information around, it can get a little bit messy once you've actually created these. But once you've got them, they're actually very, very inherent. One of the things that I was trying to do was when I did the preliminary open maintenance, I just had the very minimum, which is basically I was trying to use it as an asset register, so space and asset inventory. And one of the things I was trying to do was actually link to some of my information. I'm not going to touch this button on this one, it gets a bit naffy here, but if I go onto this one here, there's this idea of attachments. You can attach, and it works off adding attachments, things like insurances, things like insurances, things like drawings, etc., etc., and it uses another whole add-on process, which is a thing called alfresco. And this is the alfresco, which is actually a document management system where you can store a whole lot of information. This one here is actually blank at the moment. Now, what happens in behind the scenes of this? So that's got your basic open maintenance process. It's got a way of actually scheduling, and you've got to go into this one here, of scheduling inside the facilities maintenance area. You can actually do program maintenance on things, or you can do reactive maintenance. So you can do work orders based on ones, or they just generate work orders like go and inspect the fire extinguishers, or go and check the smoke detectors, or whatever, a lift thing. So you've got a maintenance and you've got ones to do that. So it does both of those things. It is a little bit fickle. Now, one of the other things with the open maintenance is it actually has two dashboards. It has an administration module, which most people log in and use. This is where most people view. And then it has a back of house information where you can actually put and set up cost issues, departments, inventory items, and your groupings on your assets, how you want to group them. You see, this is the one over on a server. It's a little bit slow. So you can actually put your devices, your elements, how you want to define your elements as door windows, or door specifically windows, structures, devices, equipment, furniture, etc. And you can actually define a lot of these items through here. You can actually have groupings, your maintenance menu. It is very, very open. So to actually set this up is quite challenging. What you really have to do is just break it a few times and to get a feel for how you actually want to use it. Now, you've actually got, there's another process called Shark that you actually have to get running. As I said, it's not actually running on this one here, but it's running on the one on the server. And this one, you actually have processes that you actually have to have running. So a lot of the times, if I've got my maintenance request here, you've got to have these processes actually running. Now, they've got these download template XPDL files, and you can actually write some of those. You use a different program to do that, and if you watch the videos which they have, you'll see those. There's purchase requests, there's work orders. I'm not too sure if I have the work orders actually functioning. Task manager, we might just jump over to there. No, it doesn't look as if any of these processes are actually running. I have got them running somewhere. Sorry, they should be, if we go down to here, once we set up those, you should see the processes, which ones are running and which ones aren't. Test approval and work order generation don't seem to be running at this particular point in time, but you can set those ones to set those ones to actually run. Now, the other thing with this, to actually get the work orders to work elegantly, you really need to actually set up an email server to give everybody email linkages so that you can tie all the emails together. I have actually written about 3 blogs on setting up the email to get these to work within the process, as in somebody within the company asks for a maintenance request, I've got a leaking tank, come and fix it. That goes to the help desk, so they need an email. The help desk then send their email off to a team who are actually going to do the plumbers. So they've got to send an email out to them saying, here's a work order, please can you action this? First of all, then send it up the email saying, log in and actually confirm that you're going to do the job, because if those people are too busy, somebody else actually has to confirm. Once they confirm, the work order is written. So it's a very elaborate process, and it works, and there's email set up. So this is all back of house for setting up things, classes, of which you may want to actually develop. I've done some, and there's views that you can set up so people can do things, and there's the back of house setup that you do here to get all your different processes working. There is a GIS component and there is a BIM component as well, where it'll read an IFC model and supposedly it can even extract the information from there. I haven't gone on to that yet. I'm currently playing a little bit with the GIS component and still haven't got that working, but I've been using maps in a different way with other databases. Now, behind this, you actually have a couple of things happening. It's actually running through, and it uses the Postgres database, which is actually running on. So that's the database that it's actually running on. And if you just look at some of these things here, if we go into schemas and we look into public, you see it's got, where's my tables? 594 tables. This is a serious amount of tables to be managing, but this is just how it's set up. Then it has GIS tables. Actually, it's only got one there, which is quite nice. And I don't have that bit there working. And it actually has the shark. I think this is called Tiger, so I'm not too sure which one I'm working on here. Schemes 3 and the shark server, and that's running 84 tables as well. So there's a serious amount of database tables in here, and where it's putting the information is not exactly obvious. So it's a very complex tool that you don't actually tread lightly, and also the documentation for it is pretty limited. So it has the PostGIS, and what it actually runs inside there is you're running a Tomcat web application manager. Now at the moment I've got the OpenMAINT running, so that's one server. It's actually called CMDLB because it's actually running underneath that. You've got the Shark, which runs the web services, and so that one does a lot of the processing stuff, so the whole processing actions. You've got a Share and alfresco ones and a couple of other ones around the place. This one here, the Share, the host manager, oh no, I think that's just Tomcat. You've got some examples, and you've got AWE, all of those, I think, with alfresco. So with alfresco, this is basically a document management system where you can actually upload files to, PDFs, whatever, invoices, emails, a whole lot of things. That's another open source program that they're using to do that. The GIS one is another open source, but as I said, at this point in time, I haven't got that running. As I said, if you look on my website, which I'll give the linkages to, there's a whole lot of information on setting up the whole process. So if you're interested in an open source program to do facilities management, you could look at that. But just be aware you're going to take an awful lot of time to actually get it set up and running. I actually found that the alfresco part of the thing and putting documents, because I actually found the open maintenance quite slow to actually run, that I ended up with an external website that I keep a lot of my background information in. So I set up the property website to hold background information like PDFs, drawing plans, other information that I want on properties that I actually have. In some way, splitting it up is not elegant, but getting access to that information is an awful lot faster than actually getting that information inside OpenMAINT. What I did find as well is that inside here I can actually make tables reading a database. So one of the things I would like to maybe explore in the future is linking these data tables to the open maintenance database, so that you can pull up what work orders are actually working on that particular property at a particular time, and also just general information about that property, like floor areas, ceiling layers, areas, whatever is actually happening on that particular property. So that's one way of actually managing those in another method. It is quite a powerful tool. The people who maintain this, Tectona, wherever they are, Tecnoteca, are an Italian firm. They do not have very good documentation. So I normally get about 130 odd hits or users coming onto my website looking at the open maintenance pages, trying to set it up around the world. And a lot of them will email me saying how they're struggling with some of the things. But if you just use it on the basic space and asset inventory, yes, I have got it working as far as the facilities maintenance and done the testing. I've set up some space and asset inventory, but I haven't taken it too far personally. I hope this video has been of interest to you. Thank you very much for watching.